Thank you so much for a wonderful talk tonight, Dr. Hynes. My first question to you is, are economic growth and environmental protection actually conflicting objectives, as it's often thought?
Well, we think in the OECD that these objectives can be pursued simultaneously, and that actually they are reinforcing. I think the problem in the past is the sense that economic growth as an objective comes at the expense of the environment, that it leads to degradation, it leads to loss of biodiversity, it leads to industrialization and infrastructure, which increases emissions, it leads to environmental degradation. But increasingly, I think that by pursuing green growth, there actually are innovations, new technology, new markets for goods and services, which can not just lead to improvements in the environment, but also can lead to economic growth and new sources of growth and new markets.
Thank you. Recent efforts at finding multilateral solutions to environmental concerns have seen some notable failures in spite of progress on individual issues. So which avenues of cooperation would you see as most promising?
Yeah, and I think this reflects the multipolar world that we're living in, that international consensus is extremely difficult to forge because countries are concerned that policies will disfavor them in terms of competition. But I think we do need to grasp the nettle. It is the issues where we are most connected, where we need to make the most progress. And these are around international environmental agreements, international trade, particularly trade of environmental goods and services, technology cooperation, and also in the finance agenda. And in all these areas we need to improve coordination and cooperation, and it's the only way that we're going to achieve these overall goods, these global public goods, which are good for everyone.
And finally, developed countries have had much larger carbon footprint than the developing world in general. How does this impact the OECD countries' efforts to promote the green growth agenda in these developing countries?
Well, it's true that the OECD countries do have high carbon footprints, and we're currently working in a range of areas to try to reduce that carbon footprint. And I think we're learning some things along the way about public policy, about certain technologies, and I think we have a lot to share with developing countries in these areas. Things like environmental fiscal reform, payment for ecosystem services, things that are quite normal now in OECD countries, but which experience in developing countries is quite limited. So I think there is an enormous opportunity to help developing countries not take the steps that we did in our countries and to embrace a new and sustainable growth path, which will be good for their growth in the short term, but also ensure their long-run sustainability.